So, I'm 28 years old and married to my wife, Haley, who's also 28. We've been married for a few years now, and a couple of months back, we welcomed our first baby boy into the world. We decided to share some pictures of him on Facebook a few weeks ago, but looking back, that might not have been the best idea. My relatives ended up seeing those photos and sent them to my dad. My dad and I haven't talked in almost 10 years, ever since he decided not to help me with my college tuition, while he completely covered my cousin's tuition without him even asking for it. I always knew my dad liked to support his brother, but paying for my cousin's college felt like he was taking things way too far. Just to give you a bit more background, my cousin Peter and I were born pretty close together, just a few months apart. Growing up, Peter and I had this kind of rivalry, almost like we were siblings, even though we weren't. We were both always trying to get my dad's attention. My mom left my dad when I was just a baby because she felt she wasn't ready to be a mom, so it was just me and my dad after that. Meanwhile, Peter had both his parents, but they were always super busy with their work and didn't give him much attention. That's probably why he was always looking to my dad for that. My dad was a big shot in sales at his company, and my uncle and aunt were always tied up running their own cafe. Alright, so here's the deal. My dad's brother and his wife ran a cafe, but it wasn't doing too hot, so they often needed money help from my dad. My dad had a pretty good job and was able to lend them a hand. I never really thought much of it or got upset because it didn't cross my mind that one day my dad might pick them over me, his own kid. Back in high school, my cousin Peter and I were kinda neck and neck grade-wise, but he struggled a bit more, especially with math. By the end of the year, I kinda pulled ahead, which felt like a big win for me. That is, until everything went sideways. My dad dropped the bomb that he wouldn't be paying for my college, suggesting I should get a scholarship. But he was all in for covering Peter's tuition because Peter's folks were having money troubles. I couldn't believe it, and argued with my dad tons about this decision, but he wouldn't budge. He even said I should be more understanding and think of Peter like a brother. When I pointed out that Peter and I weren't actually brothers since we're not related by blood, my dad got super mad. He said if I was going to talk like that, I might as well move out. I was already super upset with him for not helping me with college and feeling like he chose Peter over me. So, without really planning it out, I just left and crashed with some friends for a while. So, after that whole thing went down, I never really got to hang out or chat with my dad again. He did try to hit me up a few times, wanting me to move back home and all, but he never once mentioned helping me out with college funds. I gave it my best shot to snag a student loan or something along those lines, but it was like hitting a brick wall because I was on my own, with no grown-ups in my corner to back me up. That led to me having to bail on college just a couple of days in because my pockets were pretty much empty. Finding a job was next on my list, but man, it felt like every job out there either paid peanuts or expected you to have no life outside of work, which meant bye-bye class time. It was a super messed up spot to be in. But I didn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I managed to land this temporary gig at a company, even though it wasn't paying much. I had to grind like crazy there because I had bills piling up, rent, groceries, you name it. Doing all this solo was no walk in the park. I was pretty stressed knowing that if I didn't keep up with my share of the bills, my roommates weren't going to be too thrilled. So I had to hustle hard without any shortcuts or handouts. But as luck would have it, things started to turn around for me. All that hard work began to pay off, and I eventually landed a much better position within the same company. That job turned out to be more than just a paycheck. It's where I met my amazing wife, and now we've got this awesome little kid together. So when I look back, I can't say it was all rough times. Things kind of fell into place in a way I never expected. Even though I missed out on the whole college experience and the life I thought was waiting for me, I ended up pushing through way harder than most folks my age had to. But hey, it's all been worth it in the end. Right now, I'm actually okay with how things turned out because I believe all the hard work I put in has shaped me into who I am today. And honestly, I don't have any regrets. I've heard that Peter, too, has his own job at some company and has a family, but apparently he doesn't make as much money as I do. That must be kind of embarrassing for him, I guess. Some of my buddies have seen where Peter lives and how he spends his days, and they say it's nowhere near as cool as my setup, even though he's the one who went to college. I felt a bit of a boost in my pride when I heard that Peter wasn't doing as well as me. I was so close to calling up my dad to see what he thought about that, but I ended up not doing it because I didn't want to stoop to that level. Basically, it felt like I came out on top and Peter didn't, even though it seemed like everything was in his favor from the start. That was a win in my book. I didn't feel the need to rub it in their faces or anything, but over time, my dad kept trying to patch things up with me. He remembered my birthday, Christmas, and New Year's every single year without fail. I never responded to him, But I also didn't cut him off completely. Deep down, I was waiting for him to just say sorry even once. The craziest part and the thing that bugged me the most was that he tried to reconnect with me, but never once said he was sorry for what he did. It's like he didn't even see anything wrong with his actions and thought he was totally right to choose Peter over me, even though I'm his own kid, his son. And that's the main reason I never got back to him. Even when he told me how sad he was for not being part of my wedding. He texted saying he wished me and Haley nothing but happiness forever, which kind of made me feel a bit guilty for a second. But then I remembered he still hadn't said sorry for everything, and that stopped me from feeling bad for him. It was clear he didn't feel bad enough to say sorry to me. He kept sending texts, even after the wedding thing, but I still didn't reply. He never called, which I thought was odd because he could have if he really wanted to, but maybe that was too much for him. Then everything changed a few weeks back when my son was born, and we shared the news on Facebook. That's when I got a call from my dad, the first one in almost 10 years. I answered, not really sure what to expect. Part of me was hoping this would be the moment he finally said sorry, maybe because he wanted to meet his grandson. But guess what? I was let down again. He didn't say sorry or even talk about all the stuff that went down between us. Instead, he just talked about how upset he was that I got married and had a kid, and he was missing out on all of it. He said his heart was breaking, and he really hoped I could just let bygones be bygones and not make such a big deal out of everything that had happened over the last decade. I really couldn't wrap my head around how he thought I was blowing things out of proportion. I mean, come on. He literally chose to pay for my cousin's college instead of mine. Because of that decision, I had no choice but to quit college and start from scratch, working my way up from the very bottom. If I hadn't had to leave school, I would have been way ahead in life. But nope, I didn't get that chance. All thanks to him. And it's not like I was slacking off in school or anything. I was doing pretty okay, you know? I wasn't the top of my class, but definitely not at the bottom either. I wasn't good enough to get a scholarship, but certainly not so bad that he should just toss me aside for Peter. When I heard from him after all this time, I lost it. I told him straight up how much I regretted even picking up the phone, wishing I'd just blocked him ages ago because all this while, I was stupidly waiting for an apology. But that apology? Yeah, it was never going to happen. I finally got that. For someone to say sorry, they actually have to feel sorry first. And it was clear as day he didn't feel a shred of regret. He even tried to argue with me about it, calling me unfair. Can you believe that? Coming from him, who doesn't even seem to grasp the basic idea of fairness. In a moment of total anger, I blurted out that maybe I was actually his second son, and that Peter must be his first, considering how differently he treated us. And oh boy, did I push the boundaries there. I hinted that maybe there was something sketchy going on behind the scenes, like an affair between him and my aunt, which could explain why Peter was born. That might have been pushing the accusation a bit too far, but it just slipped out in the heat of the moment, fueled by all the unfairness I felt from his favoritism. After I told my dad to go chat with his other son and not to waste my time anymore, I just hung up on him. Looking back, I think I might have messed up because the next thing I knew, it wasn't my dad reaching out, but my aunt. She sent me a text saying what I had said was way out of line. She was upset because she felt I dragged her into this mess on purpose just to get back at my dad. She mentioned that my words had hurt not just one but 3 people, and they all thought I owed them an apology for crossing a line. I haven't texted back yet, mostly because I'm not sure what to even say. To be honest, I don't get why my dad had to go and spill the beans about our private chat to everyone. It was just between me and him, and I didn't want anyone else to get mixed up in this. I said those things in the heat of the moment, aiming them at him, not intending to hurt anyone else. I really don't care much about how my dad or uncle feel about this, but I do feel bad about upsetting my aunt. She's always been fair to both Peter and me, never picking sides or comparing us, even though Peter is her kid. She could have easily played favorites like the rest, but she didn't. She's genuinely nice, and I feel terrible for making her feel bad. Dragging her and Peter into this mess, especially with that comment about Peter being my dad's son, was out of line. I talked it over with my wife, and she didn't take sides, but did mention that what I said was pretty harsh, especially since my aunt was always kind to me. I'm thinking I should probably say sorry, but part of me still feels like this whole mess is more on my dad for blabbing, not on me. So does that make me the bad guy for saying what I did about my cousin being my dad's other son? Update 1. So after about a week of just staring at my aunt's text and not knowing what to say, I finally hit her back with a message. And yep, I said I was sorry for what I blurted out. I tried to explain that my dad's actions really got to me, and in the heat of the moment, I just said something without thinking. I didn't mean to drag her or my uncle into this mess. I told her straight up that I was mad, but I never wanted to make her feel bad. Also, I was kind of surprised that my dad decided to spill the beans about our private chat. I was low-key hoping my dad would catch the hint that I was also a bit upset with him for stirring things up, even if I didn't spell it out for him. I figured my aunt would pass my message along to my uncle and dad. If my dad was paying attention, he'd get that this was my way of saying sorry to her, but not so much to him. Haley thought it was a smart move, apologizing to my aunt but not really to my dad. And honestly, my dad hasn't earned an apology, not with all the stuff he's done. He can try to play it down all he wants, but it doesn't change a thing. Choosing Peter over me, making me quit college, and not once feeling bad about it, yeah, that doesn't sit right with me. So, no apologies for him. As for my uncle, we never really clicked. Even back when I was living with my dad, we weren't close. My aunt was the only one who treated me decently. My uncle. He was all about comparing me and Peter, and, like my dad, wasn't there when it mattered. So, let them feel whatever they want. I've said sorry to the one person who deserved it from me. And that's where I draw the line. If she's cool with my apology, great. If not, I'm still okay because I've done my part. It's up to her now to take it or leave it. Update 2. So after what felt like forever, or, 3 whole days, my aunt finally decides to text me back. By then, I was pretty much thinking she'd decided to ghost me or something, but nah, she gets back to me saying she's alright with my apology, which was a relief. But then she throws in this curveball. Apparently her husband and my dad are still waiting on the edge of their seats for their own apologies because they felt I had dissed them too. Let me be super clear about this. There's no way I'm dishing out apologies like free candy, especially not to them. It's like, they've never really been there for me or cared about what I felt. So why should I bother about their feelings now? The only reason I even thought about apologizing to my aunt was because she wasn't like them. She was actually nice to me back when I was a kid. The rest of them? They might as well have been on a different planet for all the warmth they showed me. Plus, my dad always preached about not saying sorry unless you really truly mean it. So guess what? I'm taking his advice to heart. No fake apologies from me because I'm just not feeling it. My aunt seemed a bit peeved at that and tried to lecture me about not caring about other people's feelings, like I'm supposed to just suck it up and play nice. But here's the deal. I couldn't care less if they're upset with me. I spelled it out for her one more time. I'm not about to lose any sleep over this. Right now, my world revolves around my wife and my son, and that's about it. Everyone else? They can go have a pity party without me. I noticed my aunt was ready to keep the text war going, and honestly, I wasn't here for it. So I hit that block button. Haley's hoping we can put this drama to bed, and man, I'm right there with her. But something tells me they're not going to let this go quietly. They seem way too keen on turning this into a whole saga. Update 3. Alright, so here's the scoop. I totally called it. And I can't decide if I'm more like, yay, go me, or just plain annoyed. Peter took it upon himself to throw a bit of a tantrum online, splashing our dirty laundry all over his Facebook. He went all dramatic, claiming I was throwing shade at his folks just because I was jelly of him being the favorite child in my dad's eyes. Honestly, why he thought this was some earth-shattering news to everyone is beyond me. It's not like I've been playing my feelings close to the chest. I've been pretty much an open book about how unfair the whole favoritism thing felt. And let's be real, our so-called rivalry wasn't exactly breaking news to our circle of friends. So Peter trying to make a scene on Facebook was, in my eyes, a whole lot of nothing. He even had the audacity to demand an apology from me, not just to his mom, but also to his dad and mine. I mean, talk about making a mountain out of a molehill, right? I almost let my fingers do the talking and crafted a juicy reply to spill the tea for everyone. But then I took a breath, hit the backspace, and let it all go. I decided not to add fuel to their drama fire because deep down, I knew this was exactly what they were hoping for. They wanted me to dive into the mess, throw some words around, and then watch as they twisted it to make me the bad guy in the saga, even though it was my dad who lit the fuse in the first place. So by choosing to zip it, I effectively put a lid on their drama pot. Haley, being the voice of reason as always, thought I was making the smart move. Jumping into that hot mess wasn't going to do me any favors. I've already extended my olive branch where it mattered, and I've done my part. If they're keen on keeping up their woe is us performance, they can have at it. I'm stepping out of the ring. That's why I hit the block button on Peter. Since our friend circles don't really overlap, it's not like his rants are going to change what the people who truly know me think. They've got the full story. And at the end of the day, that's the bit that counts the most to me. I mean, who needs that kind of drama, right? Better to keep it cool and move on with those who get the real picture. Update 4. Looks like my plan to just ignore Peter's drama-filled post paid off. He actually took it down. Seems like him seeing my buddies, who know the real scoop, threatening to spill my side of the story in the comments, got under his skin. They basically told him to nix the post or face the music with some truth bombs that wouldn't make him or our family look too shiny. Peter must have felt the pressure because he wanted to keep up this perfect image that he, my dad, and my aunt have been trying to show off, all at my expense. So, yup, he ditched the post. But get this, he then slid into all my friends' DMs, trying to warn them they were backing the wrong horse, saying they'd be on the wrong side of history. I mean, come on, as if our little family spat is going to be remembered for ages. That's just him being way too extra. I can't help but feel a bit secondhand embarrassment for him. And honestly, it's kind of cringy that I'm even related to them. They're all acting a level of crazy that's off the charts. But hey, I'm just relieved he stopped spreading our family drama for the whole world to see. If he kept that post up without me biting back, it would have been super awkward. I'm really just crossing my fingers and hoping this is the end of it. I've got zero interest in reopening communication with them or finding out about the next ridiculous thing they decide to do. Like I've been saying, all I want is to chill with my wife and son. I'm so not here for any more of their drama. Update 5. Alright, so it's been nearly a month since I last filled you guys in on what's been happening. First off, I just gotta say a huge thank you for all the support and kind words you've all sent my way. Haley and I seriously appreciate it. It's kind of amazing to know there are folks out there, people we've never even met, who are cheering us on. It really means a lot, and I'm super glad I decided to share what was going on with me here when I was all tangled up in trying to figure things out. So, what's new, you ask? Well, out of the blue, I got an email from my uncle a few days back, and let me tell you, it was a total curveball. I was pretty taken aback that he decided to reach out, especially since things were pretty frosty between us last time we talked. I was this close to just ignoring the email, but Haley was like, maybe you should check it out. If they're getting in touch after all this time, it could be something big. She had a point, so I went ahead and opened it. And honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what I found in that email. So, here's the bombshell. Peter actually is my dad's biological son. Yeah, my aunts, my dad, they really did have that affair, I suspected, which just blows my mind. I'm kind of gutted that my wild guess turned out to be on the money because it means Peter and I are actually related by blood, which is just... ugh. I always held on to the thought that, at the very least, Peter and I weren't related. But nope! Turns out we're half-siblings, and that's something I can't ever shake off. Now, how did my uncle stumble upon this little family secret? Well, it looks like my dad had swung by their place a while back, aiming to have a chat with my aunt about the whole mess I stirred up, all while my uncle was out grabbing a coffee. So my uncle walked in right as my dad was in the middle of talking about what I had said, that Peter might be his son. My uncle hadn't planned on overhearing this, but once he did, my dad had no choice but to explain the whole thing again. And my dad was acting super weird while telling the story, which made my uncle start wondering what was up. Then, both my dad and my aunt started making a huge deal out of what I said, acting way more offended than they should have been. My uncle knew I was just speaking out of frustration and didn't really mean to accuse anyone seriously, but the way they were reacting, like they were personally attacked, made him start thinking there was more to the story. Their over-the-top reaction was what tipped my uncle off. He figured they were acting way too defensive, which was odd. And then, when they insisted he make that Facebook post about it, even after I'd said sorry, it just didn't sit right with him. He felt something was off, but knew better than to try talking it out with my dad, who wouldn't want to hear it. And he was too wary to bring it up with his wife in case he was barking up the wrong tree. So my uncle decided to take a step that hadn't crossed anyone else's mind. He reached out to my mom to see if she could shed any light on the whole situation. Finding her wasn't easy, but after some effort, he managed to connect with her a few weeks back. And boy, did she have news for him. She confirmed the whole mess. Turns out she never really felt cut out for motherhood in the first place. Learning about my dad's affair just gave her the perfect out she was looking for. This also explained how she managed to dodge paying child support and walked away with a pretty decent chunk of change in the settlement. But yeah, she decided to spill the beans to my uncle because, after all these years, it seemed like the right time to come clean. My uncle filled me in on all of this through a pretty snarky email where he sort of thanked me for being a pain because that's what led him to uncover his wife's affair. Now they're headed for a divorce. My dad's not talking to either of them anymore, and Peter's decided to cut ties with the whole lot of us. And then, in a kind of bitter way, my uncle said he hopes I'm happy now. And you know what? I actually am. For the first time in a long while, I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.